As we move along to the midway point of September, who'd have thought we'd still be talking about a pandemic at this point, and one that even in Ingham County here is picking up steam. And more on that this hour with East Lansing and MSU. How are you coping? What's your mental mindset? What's your physical mindset? Do they meet somewhere? Do those two things have importance in your life right now? Getting through it and trying to do so with as good an attitude and optimism as possible. How do we delve into that and, find the right balance? I know who to talk to. The good doc, Dr. John Braccio here with Regional Psychological Services in East Lansing. drjohnb.com is where the podcasts are. Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Well, good morning to you, Dave. And I think during this time, people's resilience is wearing down, kind of like many cases like a battery, just kind of wearing down day by day. People really want to be moving forward, want to be doing things, but we're talking about an increase, as we hear it every day, in terms of anxiety, depression, even suicide rates, substance abuse, family conflicts, work-related problems, obsessive-compulsive behaviors, just as a result of this COVID-19 pandemic. It's really even the best of people, meaning best, worst, whatever it might be, are just feeling overwhelmed. Many people don't leave the home. They're afraid to leave the home. And it's just wearing people down. People really need to be making some decisions within themselves and within families and within communities in terms of really making differences, doing things differently, and learning to really adapt to the current, deal with the new normal and add things to it and use it as a period of growth and strength. And that's what a lot of people really aren't doing right now. And there's a need really for people to be really being more positive, getting more sleep, hydrating themselves. They need to be, having positive views. They have to further develop spiritual and or moral purpose in their lives. Why are they here? And really seek out professional help as needed. They have to kick out negative thoughts. They have to be keeping in good contact with friends, family. And at home, people have to work on tolerance. A lot of people are, I hate to say it, they're kind of tiring of being in a spaceship locked up so much of the time. So, yeah, this is a difficult time, and people need resiliency, and they really need to keep the battery going and keeping their lives going in a positive way. Very, very difficult. And we've talked about this a few times, and it isn't going away for the foreseeable future.
It's, I think we handle things different when there's a defined beginning and end. In other words, if someone were to tell you, well, you got to put up with this for 90 days, and after 90 days, everything will be good, you find a way to cope and kind of plan out that 90 days. But when it's open-ended, and it's been now more than 6 months, that's when it really starts, I think, to grind on you, because you don't know how long it will last. How long do you have to be strong? When can you kind of let go and say, this is over? We don't know the answer to that, and that makes it, it makes it interesting, put quotes around that, but it makes it very difficult too.
Well, that is really true, and I think what happens too, people really aren't sure what are the risks, what are they really? My general view is lead a normal life. You take precautions. You can wear a mask.
Sure.
You make sure you make good decisions. But once you get beyond that, life is somewhat of a risk. When you play a game, you can hurt your knee. If you get hit by a car, if we went to a 10-mile speed limit, we would have nowhere near the deaths on the road. I mean, we make choices in life that have certain risks inherent in them, and I believe at this point there are just a number of people that are seeing the risk so great that they're leading a life where they don't go outside, where they're just developing OCD tendencies. And there's more of this than you might think, Dave. I'm talking to some people now that don't leave their house. I mean, they do not go. They stay inside.
So fear is palpable for them, and the fear of the unknown, and they can't measure a calculated risk. Everything is too risky. Okay.
And I think that what happens,
because that's what you were talking about before with sports and whatever. And when I get in my car, my rig to drive down there, it's a calculated risk. When I played sports, it was a calculated risk. When parents sign their kids up, yeah, they know there's a risk, but they calculate it, and the reward is worth the risk. So is leaving the home, but they can't. The people now have a hard time identifying and separating one from the other.
Well, I think people have to realize the vast majority of people, particularly younger people, don't have severe consequences, and we do have some treatments that are better along the way in terms of treating people. So there really is progress. And one of the things I think happens is there's a lot of doom people out there that are finding the absolute worst. And I'm not trying to minimize problems, but the idea that you can't even leave your house, or if I work with a person whose wife wants him to take his clothes off when he comes in their wash and he takes a shower. Okay, now I think that is kind of over the top. Okay, but that's not. I can give you a list of 10 situations where people are really not doing things reasonable. Another one where someone's brother brings the food, picks up groceries, brings them to the door, and then it just calls and says they're there, and they have no contact. Okay, a person doesn't leave the apartment.
Right.
And the thing is, when we're out and about, we aren't aware of the large number of people their resilience is wearing down. They're tired. A lot of people sleeping too much. There are people drinking too much. There are people taking more prescription drugs. There's a lot more going on psychologically, Dave, than I think a lot of people think. So I think what we need to do is, encourage people, get into hobbies at home, start doing some more training of any type you can do on the internet. Do things, get out and try to be positive. Keep yourself healthy. Keep your body healthy. Keep your mind healthy. Make contact with people, and make sure you're not having conflicts at home. It's a whole other thing if you live in a 1,000 square foot house, which could be 2,000, doesn't really matter, but if you have 5 people there and they're there all the time, okay, they're going to be right near each other all the time. That you can have a lot of love and a lot of caring, but there has to be there needs to be sharing, there needs to be tolerance, there needs to be
it's almost
love.
It's almost like that's a whole separate area that that living space. In fact, later in the show today, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we have a divorce attorney coming on, Jacqueline Newman, who says, guess what? My business has never been better. And when she says that, she means better, meaning people are lining up, and it's a sad thing right now, Doc. But close proximity doesn't always equal happiness. It sometimes can be the opposite. And again, we've got 6 months of this. How did a prior generation do it? How did, I'm watching these World War II Spitfires yesterday in this commemoration in England, the Battle of Britain. They had their keep calm and carry on. They didn't know when that was going to end, but they kind of stuck to it. How do we do that without, going overboard and becoming just kind of stoic and callous to everything? I think it's a balancing act.
I think we have to try to be positive. You can go back to Churchill, the Battle of France is over, the Battle of Britain is to begin. I mean, as John F. Kennedy said, he mobilized the language and sent it to war. You need to have positive statements, and you can't, every time people try to say something positive, have somebody come out, oh, no. So I think there's and we're also in a political season right now, but I think we do need to be positive.
Point.
The fireside chats of FDR, I think, were very, very important. And I think what we need to do is be positive during the Blitz, even during the Blitz, like take World War II. You still had people out and about doing things. That people were still doing activities, and we're behaving in a way that that many people that really don't have a high risk of a problem, they're thinking of the worst case scenario. Like, let's say a 15-year-old, they hear of a 15-year-old died, but realizing that this is really a rare occurrence, and that we have hundreds of young people dying from drug overdose, every week. And I'm not trying to minimize things. I'm simply saying people need to put things in perspective.
In their proper perspective, okay. No,
because if you see a number of...
It's a great point.
Go ahead. You see like 10 people died. that's really horrible. But you might have 20 heart attack victims that same day. So I think what we do, we treat, I think, COVID too much like a plane crash in terms of everyone's envisioning it happening to them, where if people take precautions and they're doing the right thing, that's going to be important. Like we find out that like Central, Western, Michigan State, we have these numbers. But what do the numbers mean? How do they relate to hospitalizations? How do they relate to deaths? How do they relate to a lot of things? That's I think, a piece of the puzzle that we're not getting. We're not getting enough of it. I'm just trying to be positive because it seems like if you turn on some news and hear the talking heads, often it's such a dismal kind of a thing, and not realizing that really for the first goal was to try to plateau and not have the hospitals overwhelmed. Okay, this is something you're not going to just get rid of. We certainly need the vaccine, but even with the vaccine, we have to be aware it could be 6 months to a year that you can really get this out to 320 million people. Make it accessible.
It won't be either. They are working at warp speed on that, though. I applaud the scientists and the different drug companies. We like to knock on them as a society, but they're the ones that are doing some lifting right now, and we have to take that into consideration as we develop collectively and individually here resilience during the COVID-19 pandemic. For some people, go ahead.
Well, and I also think, Dave, we this is a political season, but I don't think there's any doubt that President Trump is really trying to move ahead on this area right now, along with other people. There are many people trying to do things. We just need to, at least for a while, we may have to wait till after the election, that people of goodwill on each side of the aisle are really able to talk. I think that's another part of it, too. Anything that's presented good on either side is seen as a negative, and rather than we're really all Americans in a war. I mean, imagine if we were fighting World War II this way, that everybody was arguing and doing this and that. I mean,
we'd lose. We'd lose.
Yeah, we'd lose. We would lose. But I'm very optimistic. I think this is going to come. I think that 2021 is going to be a good year. I think this is going to move forward. But for now, people have to work on tolerance. And also, we talk about families. I think families develop in the culture they're in, obviously, and we're in this age of people coming and going places, the internet, the whole works. We really haven't had month after month after month of people in the same home, homeschooling, people working at home. So it's a new reality, and we're finding even in our counseling and our work, we're really running into situations and high percentages that we really haven't dealt with before. It's kind of like you said, the attorney coming in on, that never been better in terms of
divorce. Yeah, we'll visit with her
really not what you want.
Later this hour. Resilience in the pandemic. Yeah. It's drjohnb.com is the place for the podcast. Dr. John Braccio, Senior here, Regional Psychological Services in East Lansing. Good to talk to you, my friend. Stay safe. Stay well, okay?
Same to you, Dave. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
1320 WILS.